Mayor, did you lie to the Tribune Review reporter when he asked you if you went to New York City?
I had a discussion with the Tribune Review reporter, at which time he asked me if I went on business to New York City with the Penguins, at which time I said no. Certainly I wish I would have clarified and continued to answer the question from there, but it was the only question asked, and we went our separate ways. But if I could have been more clear at that point, it would have been, I think, in everybody's best interest, mine included at this point.
Do you regret going to New York and missing a meeting with the leaders in the Hill District?
I don't regret going to New York because it was an opportunity for me to further a relationship with Mr. Burkle. It's one that I was very grateful for the opportunity to do. It was my intention to be back in time for the meeting, but logistically it didn't work out, and my chief of staff was there. That meeting was the beginning of a discussion with the Hill District. I've since reached out to those folks, and we were represented there, and we'll continue to have discussions with the Hill District. So certainly that's a meeting I wish I would have been at, but logistically it didn't work out.
So you thought you were going to be able to do both?
It was my intention to be back, yes, but unfortunately the flight, I was on the flight back during the meeting and didn't get back in time.
Did you accept this as mayor of Pittsburgh, or as a candidate, or in what capacity?
It was a political conversation between myself and Mr. Burkle. Understand that the 2 months previous, we had many of opportunities to talk business and talk about the Penguins Arena deal and talk about specific numbers, and we both agreed at that point that there was nothing further to talk about in terms of the Penguins, and had the opportunity to speak politically with him about politics, my own mayoral race, some presidential politics, and really look to build a relationship with him, which is one that I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to begin.
Is it appropriate, after just striking a $290 million deal involving a public facility, that you hit him up for political advice and take a free jet ride?
Well, it wasn't. Everything will be documented on the political campaign contribution report once it is filed with the Elections Department, and so it is appropriate. Nothing that I did was illegal. Nothing that I did cost the city taxpayers a dime, and so for that reason, I would simply say that nothing was illegal that was done, and the trip was appropriate.
With the Heinz Field incident, when we questioned you about that, you weren't truthful about that. You weren't truthful to Mr. Bourne about this trip to New York. What about your integrity? What does this say about your integrity? What do you say to the people of Pittsburgh about your integrity in light of these two situations?
We can agree to disagree on our conversation, and myself and Mr. Bourne can as well.
But this is twice now.
I understand that you may feel that way. This is something that when I'm asked a question, I've been honest with the media from day one. I always stand in front of you.
You weren't honest with me. You weren't honest with Jeremy Bourne.
I was honest with you. I told you I was never arrested at Heinz Field, Rick.
And come on now. That's splitting hairs. You're splitting hairs.
Well, that's fine. In your opinion, I'm splitting hairs.
But are you splitting hairs? I mean, are you trying to draw distinctions in these words? He asked you whether you go to New York.
Again, I regret. I told you to hear. I regret. I wish I would have just volunteered the information. But understand, I have a job to do. You folks have a job to do. And, I have to protect, sometimes private conversations what took place. Had this been city business, it was something that I would have volunteered when the question was asked. It wasn't asked that way. So, I mean, in hindsight, certainly I do wish I had the opportunity to just tell the story right then and there, but it didn't work out that way.
So what did
but there was no further discussion at all about the Penguins whatsoever.
You've just cut a multi-million-dollar deal with the owner of the Penguins. He's on a plane with you, his private plane, and you don't talk anything at all about the Penguins?
We honestly didn't. No.
Isn't that a little too cozy? I mean, the taxpayer money in the deal.
There's no. It's not. It was not an official business trip. It was a trip for me and Mr. Burkle to talk politically, and that's what we did, and that's what will be documented. No city taxpayer dollars were used. Was not abuse of the office, and I stand behind the decision to go to New York. Now, had I wish I presented it differently, I would have.
Who have you reached out to in the Hill District community?
We've reached out to a variety of different people, and had a call in this morning to Representative Wheatley, and we talked to them. Like I said, my chief of staff was at the meeting. So we've continued to have dialogue with the Hill District.
Do you plan to set up another meeting on this issue?
Yeah, we're going to have many meetings between now and, I mean, this is going to be a process.
But the question was specifically...
The question was specifically, did you go to New York City with the Penguins on business? And the answer to that question is no.
What's the correct answer?
The correct answer is I went to New York City with Mr. Burkle on a political trip. And I just wish I would have said that at the end of the sentence. But I didn't do it. And if anything was wrong, it was just the fact that I didn't continue. But once again, it's something that you look back on now, and it is what it is.
Are you worried about your credibility?
I'm not. I know these are incidents that involve me and not city business, and so I believe, and I know, in fact, that when we make decisions in City Hall, they're in the best interest of the residents, and they will have the opportunity to decide that and talk about the issues in the upcoming election.
Were there
The
any
city ethics
violations
have-
of the city ethics code?
I don't believe so.
The City Ethics Handbook, which I printed out here, allows complimentary travel for official purposes, but doesn't appear to allow gifts and favors of that sort for non-official purposes.
This was a political trip and will be documented on the campaign finance report.
So you
Understand?
get to New York around midnight because you were at the hockey.
That's
game.
about right. That's about right.
You get to New York around midnight. You go out and have dinner.
Correct.
What time did you get to bed?
We probably sometime after 2 a.m., between 2 and 3 a.m., I would guess.
Who did
And
you
you
have
were
dinner
planning to
with?
be back in time for this meeting with the Hill District folks?
Yeah, I was at the airport bright and early and hoped to get a flight before the 8:51 that we were able to get on, but unfortunately, logistically, it didn't work out that morning.
Would he
Following
take a
up, asking
would
for a
you take?
contribution?
No,
Would you take a contribution from Ron Burkle?
no, I will not.